The handcuffs clicked too tightly against her wrists. She didn't flinch. Her arms were trembling, not from fear, but from the cold air that blew through the wide glass doors of the grocery store where she had just bought a loaf of bread and a carton of milk. "Ma'am, you have no identification." "That's a problem," the younger officer said, avoiding her eyes. "We'll have to take you in." She looked around. Strangers pretended not to see that a mother pulled her child closer. An old man turned away. No one asked a question. No one offered help. She wore no makeup, just a faded army green jacket zipped to her neck. Her hands were cracked and weathered from the cold. Her eyes, dull and distant, carried the weight of wars no one in this parking lot had seen. But it was the missing ID that made her dangerous today, not the scars behind her silence. Not the story she didn't tell. She had come here for groceries. That's all. And now, she was being treated like a criminal. She didn't resist. She only whispered one sentence as they walked her to the car. "Please, call my husband." The officers didn't nod. They didn't answer. They simply opened the door, ducked her head, and pushed her into the back seat. The woman's name was Lena. She was a retired Army combat medic. She had stitched open wounds in sandstorms and carried bleeding bodies across minefields. She had gone weeks without sleep, watched brothers die in her arms, and buried names she never forgot. But here, on American soil, she was just a woman without ID. Lena had met her husband, Thomas, on her second tour. He had been a staff sergeant. Then, loud, warm, and steady. After they returned, he became her silence. Her reason. Her voice when the noise in her head wouldn't stop. Together, they bought a small farmhouse outside town. Simple, quiet, just the way she needed it. This morning, Thomas had left early. VA appointment. Routine. She thought she'd surprise him with fresh milk and his favorite bread, the kind with sunflower seeds. He liked the crunch, and now, she sat in the back of a squad car, her hands still shaking from the cold, her mind replaying old explosions. Not the ones in war, but the ones that came after, when the uniform came off and people forgot the station. The officers processed her slowly. One took her fingerprints. Another asked questions she didn't answer. She sat on the hard bench. Silent. Still, time passed like molasses. No one came. Until a door opened. Boots stepped in, not in a rush, but with purpose, and everything stopped. Thomas was still in his worn flannel shirt. His beard had more gray than yesterday. He wasn't tall, but something about him made people stand back. His gaze went straight to Lena. She looked up, just once. Then down. He didn't shout. He didn't argue. He pulled something from his wallet and held it out to the desk sergeant. It was a laminated card. Faded but clear. Lena Matthews. U.S. Army. Silver Star. Retired. There was silence. The officer holding it swallowed hard. But Thomas didn't stop there. He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out another card. One with a blue stripe, a gold seal, and 3 stars embossed at the top. The chief of police, who had just entered from the side office, froze mid-step. He looked at the card, then at Lena, then, quietly, back at Thomas, and said nothing. No apology, no excuse. Just silence. Because the moment had already said too much. He nodded once. Thomas stepped past him, unlatched the holding room, and took Lena's hand. They didn't speak. They didn't need to. Her hands, still trembling, gripped his tighter as they walked past the desk. The younger officer who had cuffed her stood up. Eyes low, jaw clenched. One in the room dared breathe. It wasn't shame that filled the air. It was the heavy weight of recognition. Of realizing you had misjudged a lion because it chose to be silent. Outside, a small group had gathered. No one knew the full story, but they saw the medals on her jacket now, pinned and glinting under the sunlight. And they stood one by one. Without words. A quiet line of strangers, now witnesses to a truth they almost overlooked. Some heroes don't need uniforms, Thomas would later say. They wear scars. Respect doesn't need a voice, Lena once wrote in her journal. It only needs to be remembered. That day, no one raised their voice. But everything changed, because silent honor speaks loudest when the world turns away. If this story moved you, tell us where you're watching from. Share your thoughts below. And if you believe in honoring those who walk with quiet strength, subscribe for more stories like this.